Yeah, something's obviously coming together here, and again, this is a team, especially with the loss of Slicks going into HoN 2. A lot of people are kind of criticizing that, and maybe not expecting as much as they've even shown. I mean, they're a fifth-place seed coming into this cycle number 3 here. So, as far as the points stand, and here they are in the winners bracket finals for cycle number 3. Again, coming off that very impressive victory over Trademark Esports. Stay Green, on the other hand, the number 3 in the standings going into this matchup, and they are looking for that chance to go to the grand finals, of course. But ladies and gentlemen, it looks like game number 1 has officially gone underway. So, Ralph, I think we're ready to get these started.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are. Game number 1, we have Stay Green going to be taking on TteS Esports here. Winners bracket finals. Let's take a look. Yeah.
Yeah.
I fail as always. All right, back to me real quickly. I was listening to our own beats earlier. Let me take care of that. Okay, turning the sound off on my computer from that. Okay, here we go. So back into game number 1. Stay Green on the Legion side, TteS Esports on the Hellborn side. And as you can see, the blind bands already. Ophelia Zephyr coming out from Stay Green, actually. Whereas Keeper of the Forest Parasite going to be happening here from TteS Esports. So Wild Soul is on the board, and sure enough, locked up right away from Swinamounts.
Yeah, it's the same thing like I talked about before. If you are going to ban out Keeper of the Forest as Hellborn, I think you need to ban out both. But they did ban out Parasite, which is another very annoying hero. But with a quick Wild Soul lockup on the SG, you can safely assume that they're going to pick that first. So right now, TteS Esports need to be planning for what they'd like to pick second. And I've noticed a trend of what Swinamelons does as far as locking after the initial locks, is he likes to lock multiple heroes that kind of play the same role as far as the initiator. Most people will lock up lots of those suicides, but he locks up the initiator. So like Pebbles and Fade right there are his locks. So that he can play around that. He'll already pick up a suicide, most likely in Wild Soul. He could pick up another jungler as well, being War Beast or Legionnaire, barring, of course, that they don't get banned.
Yeah.
And then he'll just be safe in picking up a support in the main phase, and then picking up one of those initiating stunners, also in the lockpick pool, being both Pebbles or Fade. So the locks have finished. On top of that is an Amphora to finish things off for TteS Esports, and the banning phase starts off with a Draconis.
Yeah, kind of interesting there, because with that Amphora lock, it's almost as if now. Obviously, you got even a Tempest and Plague Rider on top of that, so maybe not likely. But, the Pebbles and Fade perhaps wanted to pair up one of those two with that Nymphora to eventually be pretty dominating in the game. But overall, nonetheless, a very, very strong lock pool here, of course, coming out between these two teams. Warbeast is going to be the next ban, so Draconis Warbeast so far. The couple of heroes that are going to be banned out here in this series. So. Again, TteS Esports, obviously, we talk a lot about Slicks, how he left the team going into HoN Tour to eventually join Stay Green. We haven't talked too much about Enzo stepping up and being the new 5th, and it seems like he's actually fit in very, very well here for this team. And obviously, it's some big shoes to fill in Slicks, but it's not necessarily a case of him like replacing Slicks. It's more of a case, he just happens to be a great player himself and just kind of doing his own thing. And it seems to be working out fairly well here for them. So.
Yeah, I don't know who's as far as the roles go, who's their hard carry and who's their initiator. I think Moravis plays more of that initiator style hero like Pebbles and Magnus and things like that. Riser, I think, is typically their suicide hero like Keeper, Bubbles, things like that. And I'm guessing Enso is kind of like their carry, like Silhouette and Hag and what have you. So, and then that makes Leon Black as kind of like their step up as a hard support now with Whitalba being in the jungle. If they do run a jungle, of course, he'll be second support if they do run a support as well, or 2 support heroes.
If it comes down to that, which obviously very, very possible. Banning phase just about wrapping up here. Whitalba thinking about the last one they want to go with over here for TteS Esports, but the Tundra, Tremble, Moon Queen, and then Silhouette actually to finish things off. So a decent amount of carries banned there in that banning phase when it's all said and done. As far as still options left over, you do have something like a Dark Liddy and whatnot. Perhaps Forsaken Archer, we know how much Slicks especially loves her. Engineer going to be first picked over from Stay Green, though. Obviously a hero that any team would value very highly. And going to be first pick, so great solid support start here for Stay Green.
Yeah. One thing I'm looking at right now, or at least eyeballing, is that Legionnaire. I thought he'd get banned, actually, in the regular banning phase by Whitalba, so that it doesn't give SG the option to run a jungle as well as running a very, very powerful hero in Wild Soul as a suicide laner. And if you're TteS Esports, you might even want to think about running... just taking Legionnaire away from them. Now, that would be kind of scary if you're not going to plan on running Tempest. In fact, now that I think about it, you need to plan on running Tempest, because that would be silly to give them both Wild Soul and Tempest. But then again, with the way that the locks have been set up from Swinamelons, I don't think he can really afford to pick up Tempest as well if he's not going to pick up an initiator in the mid lane, at least just yet. He's going to save that for the lockpick phase. So right here, he's going to probably pick up something like, well, it could be another jungler and Legionnaire as well as a short lane carry. So something like a Dark Lady or Forsaken Archer plus maybe even Legionnaire. They could also go for their melee carry as at least in the laning phase, Jeraziah. We've seen a lot of Jeraziah pickups lately, and it is left unbanned right now.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting right here, I'm going to go out and say Dark Lady and Legionnaire. Dark Lady is also very good against Wretched Hag.
You're going to say Torture Meraxis. I don't know why. I'm just going to say that because, you know, it's a possibility, I guess.
There you go.
Someone else likes Torture. I know that.
I mean, they
Probably
could pick
not.
up their melee initiator right here as well, but I don't know, it's kind of a risk. I suppose they can still run Wild Soul as a jungle and then plan for, like, some other kind of suicide laner like Bubbles or maybe Plague if they get lucky in that lockpick phase, but there's a lot of options right now. They can do a lot of different things. But the picks up from TD Esports, a Luna Wretched Hag, very solid. Still very early to tell what they're going to do with that just yet.
Yeah, of course. So Flint Mountains is actually using a bit of extra time here. Definitely contemplating something as far as these next couple of picks. And more likely, you know, that carry option. Now, granted, Stay Green has proven, and we talk about it all the time, that they don't necessarily run hard carry all the time. So wouldn't, I guess, surprise me if they pass up on that carry option. But whoa, can't say I saw that one coming. Soul Stealer picked up on top of Glacius. So Soul Stealer. Now, we do not see Soul Stealer nowadays on the competitive scene. What do you make of him here, Trev?
One of my favorite heroes in the game.
All right.
I think he's ridiculously strong and underutilized. And if we're trying to mention heroes that are what's the word? Not undervalued.
Underrated?
Underrated, of course. I think Soul Stealer and Andromeda are at the top of my list. I think he just offers so much to the mid game, even to the late game too, if built correctly. There's a Wild Soul, no question there. Bubbles, by the way, I picked up for TD Sports, but he offers so much. His Demon Hands have such a huge AoE on them. Pebbles and Fade.
Wow.
They're screwing with them. They're totally did that on purpose.
Yeah.
They don't want them to get another melee initiator stunner.
Huh.
This is going to have to leave them with kind of like I'm guessing a solo engineer or at least a farm on engineer, and maybe go with a plague or they have a lot of different options right here. But
go Tempest for
here,
jungle. I mean,
yeah, exactly. They could go Tempest for jungle and then go solo engineer and then, or maybe even solo Soul Stealer and then Glacius engineer as a lane. But yeah, TD Sports deliberately picked those heroes up, thinking that, or you know, SG was thinking that they could pick up one of those, and TD Sports would pick something different like the Tempest, but kind of throw the curveball right there.
I get that, but at the same time, it does kind of make TTE Sports lanes a little bit more awkward. It's not as, you know, defined as if they say were to go that Tempest as well as something like the Pebbles. The lanes would have made a lot more sense to me. But now this does kind of, I'm expecting we're going to see a support Fade here.
Yep.
See like a 2-2-1 setup, or even do you think an
Tri-lane.
aggressive tri-lane?
Aggressive tri-lane, yep. Roam on that Tempest as well. Could be a Wild Soul, but most likely the Tempest. Roam on him, win your lane bottom, roam on the mid hero. And you have good heroes in the short lane and the middle lane, probably Bubbles and Hag, that can't really die from anything early on, and it can also contribute very easily to any kind of ganks because they have a long-range initiation. Bubbles with the Shell Surf, Hag with the Blink.
Yeah, and actually another thing to bring up, again, speaking of the draft and whatnot, Waitalaba, of course, stepped up as the new drafter for TTE Sports when Slicks eventually, you know, moved on at the beginning of HoN Tour to, again, stay green, obviously. So,
right.
And it seems like, you know, he's always been a very smart player. Obviously, he's been around a long time, and it seems like he is fitting into that role just fine himself. So, of course, a pause to start off this game here, but yeah, I mean, you're right. It is a case of, it seems like TTE Sports more so with a kind of the screw over strategy in that lockpicking stage rather than maybe going with the pickup that might have just really secured it for them, but it still could definitely work out for them.
You know what? Another thing they could do that I've seen actually a lot of things. Okay, I'll just go to this. Is that you can actually dual lane Wild Soul. It's very rarely done, but it can be done. And then you could run like a dual lane, like a Suicide Tempest and dual lane Wild Soul. But I don't think that's what they're going to do. They're probably going to run some sort of carry engineer in their lanes, or perhaps even solo engineer, like I mentioned. Wild Soul up in the long lane, Tempest in the jungle.
Yeah, it's definitely stay green set as well. Going to be fun to see how they ultimately go as far as their lane setup. But Soul Stealer now, okay, so going back to Soul Stealer, okay, you made it very clear. You think he's underrated and would like to see him even more here in the competitive scene. Picked up by Slicks here, of course, a great carry player himself and farmer for that matter. But there is the downside of a hero like Soul Stealers, of course, is that he just tends to be very, very squishy, and he doesn't have that escape like other carry potential heroes have, and I think that's ultimately why maybe he isn't seen as much. But
yeah, that is exactly why. And against this team, it might prove to be pretty deadly because you have a lot of aggression coming out. Fade with a long-range stun, Pebbles. If they do tri-lane this too, if Soul Stealer's in the short lane farming with Glacius supporting or something like that, they're going to get absolutely decimated. Like they're going to get rolled over, and they have a lot of jump get you potential too on Soul Stealer until he gets that shrunken head. Like Wretched Hag jumps in with the slow, Bubbles jumps in with the Kelp Field. Like you can't get away from that. So this could be a bad game for Soul Stealer, but it's going to have to ultimately, I think, get to the point where Keizu gets enough farm on Wild Soul.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very curious as to how SG lanes this because I'm pretty sure TteS Sports is going to do an aggressive tri-lane.
Yeah, it makes sense for them to definitely do that. So agree with you there. I mean, Bubbles is also heading down here, but and actually everyone for that matter. Wretched Hag also joining the party. Gonna make sure to get this Ward of Sight placed down, which currently is in the hands of Fade. Actually, I did actually do a game info real quickly. It is a US East server here, so for those that are curious. And the funny thing about that, usually we just talk about Slicks when we do that, but of course White Talibot also from the Australian region.
Yeah.
And so it's something he has to deal with as well when it comes to latency. In fact, do a ping all here. It's going to be White Talibot, what is he at, 241? Not bad, actually. Slick's at 294, so Slick's even a little bit worse than White Talibot.
Yeah.
Despite being both from the similar region. But, of course, Stay Green, they are labeled as a US East team, actually. TT Esports US West team. So probably be US West next server with that said. And obviously that's where the Europeans on Stay Green will be a little bit affected by that. But anyways, kind of just a side thing there.
Okay, right now it looks like it's going to be an aggressive lane of Soul Stealer Glacius top, Engineer solo mid, and Wild Soul bottom. And I talked with Zai about this actually, and the thoughts of Wild Soul in the short lane. And he said that the problem with it, and I totally agree with him in this, is that it's very easy to dive him. Like, he has his bear to work with to scout things out, but if you get a stun initially on him, he's got nothing. He does have the bear, but himself, until he has an ultimate up, is very, very squishy. And he has no escape mechanism, other than getting a lucky entangle when he's level 3. It's just, he just runs away. He does have actually good base movement speed. I think it's like 315. But, yeah, it could be dicey here. Now, the other scary thing about this, too, is if they decide to transition to the top lane and send they're trialing now to be aggressive against Soul Stealer. Like, how is he going to do it? Like, what is he going to do? If you send someone top to be aggressive on him, he's just going to have to leave.
Yeah.
So, we do see Wild Soul doing some pulling now with his bear. That's what you always expect a Wild Soul to do. And we're basically going to see a solo Pebbles at least now for the moment. And they're going to need to change something up now because that pulling will get pretty annoying for the Hellborn team.
Yeah, it's definitely a very, very unique laning phase here in this game. I mean, you do see a Luna and Fade actually. Burning Shadows will connect on a Wild Soul right there.
Yeah.
Do a good amount of damage. Luna still has that power throw to use, not choosing to use it right there, but while it's also using that bear to kind of harass them back. But again, you see Fade running back in. There's a power throw connecting. They are causing a lot of issues to this Wild Soul, making it very difficult for him. And of course, ultimately giving free farm to Pebbles for the most part. Bubbles actually taking the freeze here at the top lane now. You know, Soul Stealer, your normal player, and for good reason, you would think Soul Stealer be 100% Soul. Like, that's just what he's good at. He just 1v1, and he can dominate mid. Obviously, if you have like a 1v1 event, he tends to be one of the more popular out there. But if you are going to partner with somebody, actually Glacius is a good partner for him. We've seen this when we did see Soul Stealer, there were rare occasions, but the Glacius Soul Stealer lane, and how the freeze actually sets up his demon hands very, very nicely. So that's something that Bubbles will have to be a little bit careful of, I guess. But in the end, he should ultimately not die, probably.
I mean, if there's any hero to combat that and do well against that kind of lane, it's a hero like Bubbles, who can dodge some of the demon hands with his take cover, can dodge a glacial blast if he wants, can get away with a shell surf. So if Riser plays this right, he should really never die. We see some aggression coming out into the jungle now from TD Sports. Basically, Wild Soul's going to get absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
In the meantime, you're going to have a completely free farming Pebbles, and they did a really good job about following Keizu, not letting him take advantage of his bear pulling. They followed him to that lane, put some aggression on him, and now you got lane back from Moravis on this Pebbles.
Yeah, so Wild Soul really has just completely transitioned into the jungle as you're talking about. Now Fade and Aluna roaming here in the middle lane even. Fade actually with an Invis currently picked up, not level 6 of course, just happens to be the rune that he picked up. They are going to go into their own jungle now, and they could run into this Tempest. Now they are only level 1 still, so I don't know how much they... possibly will be able to do here against Tempest. There is going to be an open coming out from Fade, but still no Burning Shadows. There is a Burning Shadows. Expect that power throw
Bubbles is coming
to come out
too.
shortly. The hero blocking coming in. We do have Bubbles coming in, as you mentioned. The Shell Serve, it will connect right there, barely. And the power throw also hitting Leon Black next to the kill. But at what cost right here? Aluna will also fall, as Skyzo at least does get a turnaround playing the Glacier. So it ends up being a 1-for-1. I think it's still safe to say TteS Esports can be happy with that, getting the Bloodlust.
Yeah, they got the Bloodlust, and also, like, you have, in the meantime, a Pebbles free farming. Now, Soul Stealer's free farming in the top lane, too, and that's great, but I would so take the Pebbles free farming over Soul Stealer free farming, at least at the early stages of the game. And Swillmelon's in the mid lane. He's 9-4 compared to Hag, who's 8-5, so pretty even right there, but Engineer, how much can he really offer with solo experience and farm? I don't know, because we've never really seen him in this role, so...
Yeah.
That's one thing that's kind of interesting.
That's obviously, I was kind of curious, what more insight you may have had on that. Speaking of, hold that thought for a second, though. Wild Soul's actually in a little bit of trouble here at the bottom lane. Combo already used by Pebbles. Aluna's running. It does have a power throw up in 3 seconds. There's going to be another auto attack, and there's the final auto attack from Ravis playing that Pebble. So not only getting free farm, but a hero kill on top of that on a Wild Soul. It's the makings of a very, very effective early on Pebbles. And, again, we stress it all the time. You do not want to see that happen if you're the opposition. So, great news for TteS Esports there. But, yeah, I mean, how would you ultimately fare an Engineer to do solo mid? I mean, it seems like he's not doing that bad, but...
yeah, I don't know, like, I don't know what items he'll go for, like maybe an early blink or something like that, but, yeah, I really don't know.
Yeah,
could just go for a tablet as well, but that's not exactly the greatest against the Bubbles. It's good against some other heroes and whatnot. The rune does spawn bottom. It's an illusion rune. I think Hag already picked that up. Yes, she did. She pops it right now. And yeah, still more of the same. Pebbles free farming this bottom lane. And Wild Soul has transitioned into the jungle as he just realizes there's nowhere else for him to go. He doesn't even have his bear up ready to go. He has to wait another 10 seconds to spawn that. As he's now sharing the jungle with Tempest. At this point, with bottom lane crushed this hard and Wild Soul crushed this hard, I already see it. Transition to the top lane, start screwing with Soul Stealer because he is still very, very easy to gank.
Oh, yeah. And that's definitely a big downside of this hero, as ultimately as powerful he can be. Very easy to gank, especially early on before he gets something like the Portal Key, maybe even Assassin Shroud definitely is possible on him. So Soul Stealer going at it with Bubbles, continuing to do so. He talked about a possible transition. Don't really see that too much just yet, though. I mean, Faye was maybe thinking about heading up there, but actually does come back towards the middle lane here. And instead may try to support Wretched Hag and getting a kill onto Engineer, who's level 5 currently. And you see, of course, he has his boots, his bottle picked up earlier on. Aluna is all the way down here at the bottom lane, actually just leeching experience, it seems like. More so from Pebbles. So not really going to set up anything just yet here on his Soul Stealer. Slicks is, taking advantage of what's some decent farm for him. 26 and 17 creep farm so far. Again, not really maximizing necessarily, but he is up there. And at least pretty solid. But it really all goes back to, once again, Moravis on this Pebbles, now at 375 gold per minute. Also the top creep farm in the game at 37 and 24, actually. And counting. He already has Steam Boots, and just like that, another 900 gold saved up. So, again, the earlier on Portal Key, very, very possible here.
Yep. And if Wretched Hag blinking down towards the bottom rune, it does spawn bottom for him, and it's going to be a regen. Good for him. Z-Freak not farming too badly in the jungle as Tempest, as you would expect. Tempest is one of the faster farmers in the jungle, has that Ring of Sorcery, and is level 6. So if you'd like to get a push out early, as well as an ultimate, that would be pretty beneficial for his team right now. Now, they are leading in experience, and that's simply because of this hero right here, this Tempest. As you compare him to another support here on the other team, and he's got a lot more levels. So
Engineer is actually the highest experience in the game right now. He does hit level 6, so I think he might have been the first one to do so. Okay, so going back to Soul Stealer, though. So again, Soul Stealer obviously here we don't see too often on the competitive scene. You mentioned he's underrated.
Oh, Tempest.
Tempest is in a little bit of trouble. Luna and Fane may find him. Yes, they do. The power throw is going to connect, but not really able to chase him all the way. And Tempest will be fine for now, but Z-Freak is still here, with the support nearby. So looks like that is going to be into that, though. But so going back to Soul Stealer, though, do you expect to see that Portal Key on him? I mean, is that something that you think priority on Soul Stealer or what?
I think first item Shrunken Head, without a doubt. You could be aggressive with a Portal Key, and that's kind of taking a gamble. But the thing is Pebbles is going to have his first. And
true.
Unless you're really fast with your reactions, even then you can't be too fast sometimes if Pebbles is blinking onto you when you don't have vision of him. Good job by Skyzo, who's actually triple stacking, or already triple stacked this hard camp for Soul Stealer right near him, which is technically one for the Hellborn team, but utilizing those level 4 demon hands, and he just kills that triple stack just like that.
Wow, yeah. You talk about a hero that has basically one of the best farming tools in the game.
Yeah.
Those Demon Hands, of course. Sure, they were increased by 5 mana, but still very, very, very powerful. The 80 mana cost now, of course. But, yeah, very powerful. You mentioned he hit level 4 of that. And, yeah, the triple stack down just like that. And actually, his GPM much more impressive now, especially after that. 340 gold per minute and counting. So, good news for him. Energy, wow. Engineer does pick up
all the time.
I know. You got me doing it now. He's actually going to bottle up a double damage ring, by the way. But he does actually pick up a Soul Scream ring. So, very possibly an Energizer on Engineer. Go figure. Port coming into the bottom lane in the meantime. Invulnerability is going to come out. They really want to deny this tower. And they are going to be successful with it, it looks like. So, they did use a Homecoming Stone port from Soul Stealer, but it does pay off in that sense. And he actually picks up a Mighty Blade right there.
Okay, good. Yeah, and he has a Mystic Vestment, so he's going the more tanky route, and I like this. This is the exact way that he needs to be played in this situation. They're massively up. Well, I shouldn't say massively, but they have a very good lead and experience early on. As it's been a relatively passive game, and, you know, passive games always benefit those in junglers. So Z-Free comes in the jungle, is basically free farming and doing really well. Level 7, just spent 1,000 gold on something, probably boots and close to something like Steam boots or whatnot. But yeah, Engineer, again, I'm very curious as to see what he brings to the table in a solo role and how effective he can be. Now, they do have some good, well, as far as point stuns, they do have Glacial Blast, and then Glacius is slow, as well as the Ice Imprisonment. So you can set up things quite nicely for Engineer.
Of course, yeah. So, Swindelmound's going to play the Engineer in a different role than we're used to, but like I said, the Energizer perhaps in the works for him. Soul Stealer are going to clean up this middle lane. They're going to go for a push here in the middle tower. It's usually what you will follow when you see a Demon Hand nukes on the group waves like that. So they're going to apply some pressure. Pebbles does have the Portakey purchase. 9.5 minutes in. He is going to show. Okay, he's going to port to the middle lane here, it looks like, the secondary tower. So here we go. The surprise factor coming at you. We'll see if Pebbles takes advantage of this. Soul Stealer is still here in the front lines. Are we going to see him going? Yes, we are. There's that jump. There's that combination. And the Bat Blast on top of that. One more auto attack. No! Soul Stealer barely survives. The energy field doing work. Fade in the background, wanting to chase, but unfortunately, your Burning Shadows on Cold Tempest holding him in the meantime, locking down both Bubbles and Pebbles with their Bubbles full. But the Sonar Scream from Wretched Hag, and Wretched Hag will finish with a hat trick right there, being played by Enzo when it's all said and done. Okay, so the big thing, I think, is Slick's actually living right there somehow, but still, it seems like our Hellborn team came out on top.
Oh, they were so close to getting him. I actually thought that Moravis maybe should have tossed him backwards into the tower. Now, he doesn't have the full combo up because he got one level into his ultimate. And I think if he tossed him back, it would have been a little bit better, but nonetheless, they still easily won that fight with a huge Sonar Scream at the end there from Enzo as he picks up a hat trick. But the build-up items from Soul Stealer definitely kept him alive, having that early Mystic Vestments on top of the Mighty Blade. So proving that that is the best route to go in this game. And the jig is up now. Pebbles does have his portal key as he showed it right there and made a big play. And that almost looked like a terrible turn with a huge Tempest ultimate. But they stuck in there and were able to turn it around for themselves.
Yeah, you're right. Z-Frick definitely, no doubt, he deserves credit there. He landed a huge ultimate. But in the end, the Sonar Scream at the very end by Enzo, as you talked about, and sure enough, finishing off the hat trick. So despite them not getting the target they even wanted perhaps in the beginning with the initiation on the Soul Stealer, they still come out 3 for 1. Bubbles their only death target on their side. So 11 minutes into the game, and now just around 1,000 gold overall lead here. So, I mean, Pebbles obviously continuing to do very good, but more so Wretched Hag now is really up there, especially after that. 365 gold per minute just like that herself. And she actually has an early build-up item. She's got a Grave Locker, which does have a charge in it, by the way. The Steam Boots and the Mystic Vestments on top of that. So that's, again, more good news coming out here for Stay Green. Soul Stealer, however, staying alive. He will get closer to finishing off that Shrunken Head more than likely.
Yeah.
And the Nukuja as a result of that, though. So.
Luna's trying to screw with these Ancients that Wild Soul's been trying to kill for a long time. I at first thought it was Luna as a teammate. And I was like, wait a second. No, they're fighting each other. And Keizu, he's desperately trying to find levels in farm. He can't really find it. He's not even level 6 yet. He's the same level as his Glacius, as he's roamed so much. He spent a couple items, or gold, I should say, on health potions as well. So he's got 2,200. Not terrible, but not good by any means either. Meantime, we have a mid-tower push. Moravis gets credit for that. And they can keep being aggressive, I think, now with this portal key up on him. They need level 6, too, on Fade. Then they can really start doing some damage with that clear vision.
Oh, yeah, of course. And Regen Rune going to be bottled up here by, maybe even just picked up, but yeah, it is going to be picked up by Bubbles, actually, so he'll get back to full mana. And speaking of Keizu, he does hit level 6, actually, but he immediately falls back and for good reason. They do have a Ward of Sight here that was placed by Skyzo, so that's a good thing for Keizu, because if it wasn't for that, he would probably be dead right now. So He falls back in time before he gets massively ganked right there, and I say that because all 5 heroes are up here for TTE Sports. You look at the bottom lane, though, in the meantime, State Green is trying to take advantage of that, and they're pushing the bottom tower, so
Bubbles
it could
is
end
already
up being a
setting up.
1-for-1 tower exchange. You mentioned, though, Bubbles is setting up. He's level 7 with that Kelfield. They are going to get the top tower. Expect those ports to come in shortly with the Kelfield initiation. Here we go. Shows are coming in. There's that Kelfield. It only hits 2. It does not hit Soul Stealer, actually. Engineer is going to get a great energy field out. Burning Shadows coming out right there. There's a Cole on top of that. Regidak trying to pursue this. Alignments will hit both. The Soul Stealer ultimate going off, though, and Pebbles will fall in the end, as does Fade. Regidak now on the run. She'll blink away, but obviously Stay Green coming out on top there. And actually, Regidak blinked into Glacius there. The Tundra Blast going to be, and what a demon hand from Soul Stealer with a very difficult angle. Slicks lands it. Double tap for him to finish it off, and Stay Green absolutely dominates that fight in the end.
Yeah, great angle there of the last hand from Slicks. Fantastically played. And the Engineer ult works against Blink initiators too. Pebbles, I think he blinked in and got silenced or something, but it makes it very awkward for you to jump into that. Kelfield unfortunately missed on 3. I feel like he could have got Soul Stealer in that, but did catch 2. Soul Stealer does now have enough for his Shrunken Head, which is going to be huge for his team. And the biggest thing, Wretched Hag died. And he's the one, especially right now, that needs to transition to the mid game and get that early Hellflower, which is going to pay dividends, especially against the build that Soul Stealer is going, which is now that Shrunken Head now does have it. So they can't take any more fights like that. That's pretty huge, and that just buys more time for Wild Soul to get the items and farm that he needs. And he's well on his way. He almost has a Sword of the High, actually. He's only like 600 gold away.
Well, you know, another big note on that fight, and correct me if I'm mistaken, but I believe they ported to the secondary tower there with the Homecoming Stones. And, you know, with them setting up with a Kelfield like it did, I kind of feel like that might have been a little bit of a mistake. It seems like that they could have had a little bit better of an initiation chance if they just ported to the tower that was being attacked right there. So that perhaps was the reason why they were a little bit more delayed as they could have been. But
they needed to burst down Engineer, no doubt, before he got his spells off. That's the biggest thing. So blinking in and going on to the Engineer. Obviously, Pellet doesn't have a blink, but he has the blink inability from the Shell Surf. But they definitely needed to take him down. Like, his ultimate did do a lot of work in that exchange.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I mean, Engineer, we've never really seen him in the solo role, but the experience in Engineer is actually pretty solid here. He's definitely up there in the charts, at least in the medium range, and he's level 9, so we'll have a level 2 energy field before you know it, and obviously that makes it last 2 seconds longer, and even more magic damage per second, as you see right there on your screen. So good news for Stay Green. Fade is roaming around now with those Striders, and of course the ultimate that you talked about.
Has a bound dive very early.
Wow, yeah. Whitelaba picking up the early bound die, going to maybe try to use it over here on the Ancients. It's actually Skyzeel plays no ward aside in there, and sure enough, Fade will spot it as he'll get a Luna to actually take it out. Wants to stay invis for the time being, so give some farm for her. But they'll be able to continue to stacking that now. Okay, so Wild Soul. Wild Soul obviously has not been his game for KZU, but he finally is starting to find a little bit more decent farm. And he does have 3,400 gold just like that. So he will purchase a Sword of the High here more than likely shortly. And then on his way to that early Maka Brilliance. So as it usually happens, it seems like with a Wild Soul, even this is even more of a different circumstance where he was completely underfarmed early on, but still not bad. I mean, 16 minutes in to have your Sword of the High. Not bad.
Not bad at all. And they just made it, they weren't able to get as many ganks onto him as possible. Like, he bought really no build-up items at all. Like, no boots on Boo Boo either. Just went straight for that Sword of the High. And as a result, is going to have a pretty damn early Mott considering the situation that he had in the beginning of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a good point. I just figured that he had boots too, but now you're right. Nothing. Really just went straight for that. So.
And this is why, because you can sit your hero away, which with no items at all, except minor totems, but no items at all, basically 1450 health.
Yeah. Just
with his ultimate, level 8, and you just sit far away from your bear and let your bear do all the CSing.
Pretty ridiculous. So, Hellborn team TTE Sports to make something happen here in the middle lane, doing a little bit of a push, but we'll see if they really commit to something. As the brothers and Swinamelds and Z-Freak, they're actually down here at the bottom lane, pushing it out a little bit. Tempest, does he have a? Okay, he's gonna go to the side shop. He sells his minor totem, I believe, but he's still just shy of a portal key. But it looks like he's gonna sit here for another 10 seconds. And pick up that portal key. So he does have a homecoming soon already, so if he finds it necessary to port into the middle lane, this could catch TTE Sports actually off guard if they're not careful with that. So, in fact, there you go. There is the portal key purchase, but no push in the middle lane continuing, so won't be able to use it at least just yet. But big item nonetheless, of course, for Stay Green.
Yeah. The problem now is you have two underfarmed supports that are also underleveled on TteS Sports, which is why we see this huge gap in experience.
Yeah.
7,300 experience lead for Stay Green right now, and it's mostly all dumped on this Tempest. Like, that's the reason why. Tempest, by the way, who does have his portal key, is able to initiate quite well now. There are a lot of stuns, though, to cancel that. And so until he gets that Shrunken Head, probably won't find exactly the best scenario to get that Blink ultimate off, but still could possibly find it.
Soul Stealer's quietly been doing his own thing, I think it's safe to say, for at least his last couple of minutes. Ever since he's gotten that Shrunken Head, he hasn't really had to use it yet. But he's going to go clean up, well, at least somewhat do some Ancients right here with a little bit of team assistance. But he already has nearly another 2,000 gold saved up. So we got the Shrunken Head first. Definitely made sense. I mean, do you think now that portal key, or you seem to go for more of a damage build?
Oh, I would definitely get portal key.
Okay.
Yeah, I would build him quite standard this game. And if you get any kind of stun, also, like, you know, Soul Stealer synergizes really well with Tempest, too. Like, late game, did he buy the portal key? Yeah,
yes, he did.
So now if you get that Shrunken Head up on Tempest, they have no way to cancel that at all. No way.
Yep.
Unless you can push out your team, but that's not really a way of canceling it. So if he gets that big Shrunken Head ultimate on top of Soul Stealer, it's like everyone's dead immediately. You slap on a Blink on the Engineer, too, if he's able to farm one as well. It's just going to add insult to injury, not to mention the mock damage from the Bear. He will have that up, too. So, yeah, things are looking pretty up for Stay Green as far as they approach the mid to late game.
Yeah, it definitely is. And again, we're only 19 minutes in. It's definitely not that far in just yet. But, yeah, right, approaching that mid-game stage. You know, Wretched Hag, obviously another big influence here for TteS Sports. Getting Enzo that Hellflower especially will be big as always for Hag. And has another 2,500 gold saved up here following the first Arcana. So it definitely is on the way to that. Again, obviously big news. Major Totem on Pebbles, actually, and he is going to be porting somewhere else, but I was going to say probably going for Tablet. And sure enough, he does there. So you usually don't see a Tablet on Pebbles, but Moravius finding it necessary this game. Top lane, we could have a bit of action coming up, however, as Engineer and Soul Stealer are pushing, but there's a lot of support nearby, so TteS Sports may want to be careful about that. But they also have all 5 coming in, and Fade does have the Invis, remember. He's going to activate it right here again. He has to bound out. Actually, Wild Soul going to get caught out completely by himself. Wild Soul will melt like it's hot right there. Soul Stealer gets his ultimate off.
Ugh.
Not the greatest positioning right there, so not maximizing damage, but they do take out Fade. Bubbles using the takeover. Bad Blast coming out, however. Engineer dropping pretty fast himself, but he gets the energy field off, and he'll be fine for now. Wretched Hag now being chased down. She'll be forced to blink away, as will Pebbles with that portal key. Soul Stealer not finished just yet, though. He's going to keep going in with a couple of auto attacks, but it looks like that will be the finish of it, as it ends up being a 2-for-1. So,
yeah, and no Tempest ultimate used. And that's the problem with Wild Soul and the hero and playing against him in general. Like, he's pretty tanky. You have to expend a lot to kill him, and that's what happened. They expended a lot of their cooldowns on killing him, at least early on, and then the response is pretty easy after that. The rest of the team use their spells on them, and the rest is history. And Soul Stealer, despite that ulti being pretty terrible, still has a huge presence in these team fights. Well, not to mention the energy field. I mean, that does a lot for them, too. And like I said, they still didn't even use that Tempest ultimate.
I mean, the other thing to remember, too, so maybe the damage wasn't the greatest, but Soul Stealer, the Soul Burst, as it's called, it does do more than just simply the damage. It does actually reduce movement speed by 20% at this level, as you can see, and also base damage of the heroes around him. So it still did something, but yeah, obviously it wasn't the greatest placement there. From Slicks. But I think more, the biggest thing that I saw, though, in that fight was actually TteS Sports. I mean, sure, it may have been because of the Soul Stealer ultimate, that's why they spread out so much, but Aluna and Fade were actually into the fight, where Wretched Hag and Bubbles were way behind. They were way behind after Wild Soul died, so it's almost a sense of miscommunication there, where the supports wanted to go in and keep the fight going, whereas the damage dealers were sitting back and not really going in too much. So
yeah, and you shouldn't keep fighting, too. Like, if you get a... If you're using all those spells on the Wild Soul and you kill him, like, you need to run away. Obviously, they want to fight you because your cooldowns are down. So that there shouldn't be any kind of discrepancy as to whether the fight or flight. It needs to be flight at that point.
So Pebbles, a tablet of command. I'm actually curious what you think about that, Trout. I mean, again, not an item you usually see on a Pebbles, but
yeah, I don't know if I really like it per se. Like, obviously, it's not really going to help you against the energy field from Engineer. God. It's going to help you against the Tempest, like I mentioned before, but it's really a band-aid to the problem. It doesn't fix it.
Yeah.
I would have preferred to see him go more carry items, like Soul's Bulwark into Demonic and into a Hellflower, something like that. They can't use enough Hellflowers, or they could use more.
Yeah.
Like going on to Soul Stealer, especially having that Shrunken Head. So looks like he's going to go for more of a Slicks type build too, with that other Mighty Blade. Could be a Frostburn.
Yeah, at least initially the Ice Brand, but definitely Frost Brand. Very, very possible here to come for Soul Stealer. So, as you said, Slicks indeed. That's definitely a style that he likes to go more than other carries out there, it seems like. Fade is trying to set up some initiation. Now, they do have a Bound Eye on a Wild Soul. I'm sure White Talibah realizes that, but so you need to be more and more careful. Now, there's also Revelation down in the background, too, so really needs to make sure not to expose himself, but obviously, Stay Green, they're playing this smart themselves, or they're staying spread out and not really giving a whole lot of opportunity to TTE Esports as far as being able to jump in and initiate. Now, the Hellflower on Enzo, of course, that is big, and wanting to get that jump, say, on that Soul Stealer would be huge if they can do so, but again, Stay Green not going to really commit to this, and they will start to fall more and more back. And I will say also another benefit of actually leveling up an Engineer like they did this game, because of his role, is that he actually will get to start to level up his Spider Mines a lot earlier. He's already level 2 of it, and that's, I've always felt, again, it's kind of an underrated ability. I mean, it's a good burst damage. Now, we do see Wretched Egg jumping in right here onto Engineer, but there's really no follow-up to her. And in the meantime, way over here, actually, Pebbles gets caught out. The Entangle goes off and Pebbles will fall down. Wretched Egg blinking an Engineer, though, with the portal key. He jumps in, a great energy field going off. Wretched Egg gets caught in it, and TTE Esports just so sloppy right there, it seemed like. Pebbles does buy back, by the way, but absolutely nothing going to come of it.
That's the Moravis buyout right there. There was really no reason to buy out at that time. Yeah, there's the Ice Brand on Soul Stealer. I gotta say, like Engineer with a portal key too. He got it pretty damn early. I mean, he was solo mid, but it's hard to farm sometimes when you're solo mid and you're a hero like Engineer. He has an early portal key, and it's gonna be huge. Once you get the Shrunken Head up on Tempest, I really don't feel as if TTE Sports can do anything about the lineup that SG has. And I mean, Hag is great and all, but it's really all riding on Hag at this point, and Moravis is, of course, on to Pebbles, excuse me. But he went for more of like a utility build and is not going to really carry much with that tablet. So
yeah, it seemed like ultimately, you know, with this lineup that TTE Esports had, this definitely was more of your aggressive build of a lineup and taking advantage of that earlier on and getting the kills as a result. Obviously, that hasn't really been happening. They only have 6 hero kills now coming after 25 minutes into the game, and that's definitely not where TTE Esports, I'm sure, wanted to be after they picked the lineup that they have. So, yeah, Stay Green definitely in the better position here in game number 1. 11,000 experience lead, 6,000 gold lead. You have Soul Stealer, you mentioned the Ice Brand finish. He's actually going to do some more Ancients once again, possibly finishing that Phosphor. But yeah, again, going back to Engineer, I mean, leveling up the Spider Mines, he has level 2 of it currently. That's just 200, you know, on-command burst magic damage, really, in a sense. And also, you can be, I don't know if he's been placing, I don't know if you can see on the map necessarily, but you can also be a little bit crafty with them, place them into place, and maybe if like a Luna or whoever else runs over them, get some good damage out. So.
You can actually be really crafty with those things, especially in defending pushes. Like, you sit all in one clump set of mines, and you have the hero that you know that they want to initiate on, stand right over them.
Yeah, that's true.
And then you just get ready to push back that hero or whatever, and then they jump onto a huge clump of mines and just die instantly. I mean, it seems like it has this whole stigma of trolliness, like trolliness about it, but it's actually a really damn good ability. Like, it really is.
Well, I think it comes with the idea that, of course, you know, people that come from the Dota background, you know, they think exactly. They think techies when they think mines like that. So that's, I think, why it ultimately has that trollish stigma. But no, I've always stated I really think it's can be a very, very valuable tool. All the way back when Notel actually played Engineer quite a bit for Fnatic, he actually leveled it up later on. Anyways, Fade is actually running away right here from Engineer, speaking of him, as Fade will pick up the Illusion Rune, so good job by White Talibah kind of sneaking in right there. But more passivity for both teams, really, but you got to continue to think that really does favor Stay Green, if not for Soul Stealer, especially for Wild Soul, actually. Yeah. He's just buying more and more time himself, now up to 300 gold per minute. By the way, Soul Stealer goes a Glowstone here, so a Frostwolf Skull. Definitely going to be his first item.
Yeah, I can't really say first item Frostwolf Skull, but it's like his first damage kind of item. Or
yeah, I don't know why I said that.
Well, yeah, no, I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean, but it's going to be great for him. I will still say that Hag can do a lot in these fights, but I think the key factor is, well, now it's a Shrunken Head on Tempest. Yeah. Like I said, if he jumps in, gets 2 or 3, it is an uncounterable ultimate. You can't do anything about it other than push someone out.
Getting scary for TTE Esports. Soul Stealer on top of his items. He is also level 16. Of course, he has 30 souls currently, so maximum soul burst damage potential. coming out here from Slicks playing the Soul Stealer as they clean up what is that. No, there's still actually both the top and the bottom secondary towers remain. The bottom one not for long, most likely. As you see, Boo Boo's down here with that Maka Brilliance. Of course, we got Wild, so he actually has a bound eye on himself, but he's here just beating away at the tower. Soul Stealer joining the party as well. And it looks like TT Esports just under the impression of, well, we might as well just let it go. So Pebbles running up a little bit, but no, they are just going to let this fall in the end. Not worth defending. Kezu will actually get credit for the tower kill. So now the top tower, the only outer tower remaining before the base is going to start taking the pressure. They're going to clean up what is the double stack Ancients here on the Hellborn side as well. And there you go, Wild Soul actually just finished at Plated Greaves, so I guess not a huge deal, but still something. Finished on him. Energizer being used right there by Engineer. Again, he's made use of that, definitely. So,
yeah, basically, if you're a TT Esports, you have to kill Tempest. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You have to kill him before the fight starts. And the thing about it, too, is Engineer is such a great hero in the sense that if one person jumps in, like, if you know they're committed, you just ulti right on that one person, and no one else can follow up.
Yeah.
That's basically what we saw at that one fight down at the Tier 1 tower. That's basically what happened when Bubbles came in and started the initiation. And it stops further initiation. So if their plan is to jump Tempest, well, they're all going to die if they try to go all out and kill him, unless Tempest is really out of position.
Yeah. Wild Soul is just, again, it's pretty impressive. It really goes back to the, obviously they were able to first pick him because they locked him up. They chose TT Esports. And again, they chose the Blind Band Keeper and then Parasite. It's not like that's wrong necessarily. It's just, obviously that's in the end how lock picking is. You got to ultimately sacrifice something. And in this case, they went with the Wild Soul pick up for Stay Green. And despite his just really struggling start, is definitely starting to have a much, much more of an impact here in this game. So. But yeah, of course, then you have Slicks who actually just finishes. Okay, that's interesting. So he buys the Glowstone, and then he's like, I want to finish the Frostburn now. Slicks does this, man. He just does this. It's
could be going for
sometimes.
An Icon of the Goddess.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Probably not. Yeah, he is going to join his team, though, in the top lane. Go ahead and push in with what is now the last outer tower remaining, as talked about earlier. And there we go. Kezu actually gets credit for the tower kill even. So they may just actually try to break into the base, and it looks like that's exactly what they're going to do. Engineer is also following suit. Aluna already porting back. The rest of the team will definitely have to join him as well. But this tower is starting to drop quickly. Now another Hellflower just purchased. Bubbles does have it as well. So they got a couple of Hellflowers to work with. Aluna, or excuse me, not Aluna, but Wretched Hag does get the middle tower kill in the meantime. And now she will look to perhaps come back as soon as possible. But yeah, I mean, they do have 2 Hellflowers here now. That's pretty big.
Like I said, they have to go on Tempest. There's no question about it. And they can't clump up. The good thing about Fade is she can actually run around and get some good vision of Tempest. Oh, there it is.
We go. Tempest actually jumps in the meantime, catches both Wretched Egg and Pebbles. Wretched Egg is just going to melt to the ground. She cannot even move. She cannot buy back. Pebbles also taking a lot of damage in the meantime. Nobody dead still yet on the Legion side. Pebbles will be picked off. And Pebbles does buy back immediately, however. So we'll see that maybe this is a chance right here. Soul Stealer. Oh, the Soul Stealer ultimate as soon as Pebbles jumped in, actually. He goes for the combo, but now Soul Stealer turning it over. Fade will finish off Soul Stealer in the end. Massive dive right there from Save Green, actually. Soul Stealer does buy back right away, though, as you mentioned. And back to farm he goes. But these racks, at least the melee racks, are going to fall nonetheless here for Stay Green. And they are going to get what they came for.
Yeah, I mean, what did I say? Tempest jumps in. He gets 2 in his ultimate, and there's just nothing you can do about it except take it like a man.
Just hope for the best.
Yeah, and Soul Stealer buys out. He's pushing up the mid tower, and it's just looking pretty grim, like with a fight like that. And then as it gets more and more to the late game, Wild Soul and Tempest, it's just going to get worse. Yeah. Like yeah, it's pretty difficult at this point.
Yeah, it's getting to a point where obviously I don't think it's concede time just yet by any means for TT Esports, but it is game number 1 here in the best out of 3, so definitely start getting to that thoughts of, you know what, maybe give it one more go here. Let's try to catch Tempest with a double Hellflower. Try to burst him down going into a fight. Maybe catch him without a buyback or whatnot. Get a little bit lucky. Maybe Ninja Kongor. Obviously, a lot of things would have to add up here, but still, it's no problem with TT Esports by any means staying in this, but it is definitely looking grim to say the least. You do have a Tempest actually another 2,800 gold saved up. Speaking of that. So plenty there. Now the Hellborn team, they are going to they're in the Kongor area. They were doing some counter warding, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're actually going to go for Kongor. Instead, just going to kind of be in the area for now. The Shrunken Head on Wretched Hag, of course, will be big for her in the next fight to come. But Engineer also, yeah. Swindelmelon's actually going the Codex route here. So
Yeah, that's when you know they're comfortable.
that's when you know, yeah, it's probably wouldn't be the typical pickup here. Granted, this is, again, a little bit different. He is a farming engineer in a sense, but I don't know.
Yeah,
It's a little silly.
I mean, there's in a close game, there's really no reason to buy that. That just shows just how comfortable they are with the game. Like they have late game written all over their team.
Well, Pebbles going to jump in. They want to go for a kill and a soul. They're not really the biggest follow-up doing. Now Pebbles wanted a little bit of trouble. He's going to be pushed through the energy field. In comes a great turret. Actually, they entangle on top of that. Pebbles will probably fall. Yes, he will. He chucks in the meantime. Wretched Egg comes in the background. There's the Shrunken Heads being activated all over the place. The Soul Stealer ultimate did go off, and Wretched Egg actually taking a lot of damage as a result. He gets the great Bat Blast off, actually, but he'll fall when it's all said and done. Soul Stealer is going to die right there. He was denied? No, he wasn't. Was he? Okay, yeah, he did get denied. Okay, yeah. So KZU does actually deny him as a result of that doping on him. So he actually can't buy back. So, I mean, I guess they killed Soul Stealer, but, ooh, actually a Fade catching Engineer here even. Doesn't have enough mana for the cold, though. And without that, probably not going to get the kill. In fact, he gets turned on, and Engineer will gladly take that. So,
And they kill a Bound Eye.
oops.
And Fate has nothing this game. Striders and 2 minor totems. Two totems Fade. But yeah, it does look like we are going to see that very, very typical icon of the goddess build on the Soul Stealer.
Is he
of course,
really
right
going
after the Frostburn
Yes.
and Blink Shrunken Head.
All right, so the Codex was one thing, but Icon of the Goddess, that's just something else. He does have the Beastart, though.
Push
so
tablet onto Wild Soul, of course.
Of course.
Very curious to see what Tempest goes. Most likely that Thunderclaw.
Harkons or Thunderclaw, the next in line for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, to say the least, State Green is very, very comfortable here as far as where they're at. I'm a little bit surprised that they're going that. I mean, again, the Codex was one thing, but now, at the same time, it's not like these are throw items necessarily. So,
Right.
I mean, Tablet does still bring something. Icon of the Goddess, it's not necessarily just horrendous. I mean, it does give him more survivability.
It's pretty bad.
It's pretty bad.
It is pretty bad on Soul Stealer. I'd say
But,
Codex is way better an engineer than Icon of the Goddess is on Soul
Yeah,
Stealer.
I guess. Hey, at least there's a competitive game where we get to say we saw Icon of the Goddess, and I got to applaud Slicks for that. So that is a cool thing. They're gonna go for Congra here. It looks like. Obviously, I don't know how much the Hellborn team can do to stop this, if anything.
Yeah, what does he have on Boo Boo? Is it still just the Mock? Yeah, it's Mock and Ghost Marchers. So, he also, of course, has the Soul's Bulwark on himself.
Yeah. All right, they are porting in. Actually, Engineer does catch Pebbles. The energy field going to be used right there. Cole going on to Engineer, burning a lot of his mana, actually. Bat Blast, or not Bat Blast, but HoN coming out from Wretched Egg. Fade will fall when it's all said and done. Wretched Egg going to activate that. Shrunken Head turning around onto Glacius. Pebbles jumps in, cannot hit, and the Tempest ultimate, however, going to be Hellfire. He didn't actually Shrunken Head. A little bit of a misplay there coming out from Z-Freak, but it's probably not going to matter. Soul Stealer ultimate goes off now. Z-Freak will fall, but Bubbles very likely going to die as soon as he comes out. So there we go. He does die. Wretched Egg now needing to blink away as Fade gets jumped. So Hat-Trick coming out for Slicks right here, playing this Soul Stealer. And you know what that means? That means he's getting charges, baby. He's getting charges on that Icon of the Goddess. So
Yeah.
that is scary.
He's already up to 8. What do they do for you anyway?
Just more regen.
More mana or health regen?
Mana and health.
Ooh, 0.5 health regen per charge, so he's got 4 HP regen. Wow. That's so good.
50%. Yeah.
That's so good.
And he has 80% mana regen now.
Ah,
As a
okay.
result of that. Okay.
Gotcha.
Looked at that correctly. Yeah, okay, we get it, Tralf. It's not a good item. So, again, that was an interesting fight. I mean, that was a very well played by, I must say, Swindlemons in the beginning there, especially on the engineer, and caught Pebbles off guard and really disoriented him. But yeah, the misplay by Z-Freak, no doubt. I mean, he ulted without actually using the Shrunken Head, and that's where I was like, wait, what? How did he get canceled? I thought he couldn't. Oh, that's how. You don't use your abilities. That makes sense. So yeah, again, it is a point of State Green. Obviously, they're very relaxed. I mean, they're comfortable. They're making mistakes like that where that's okay. There's the vote to concede. So in the end, it's over. That's what matters. They got the W. GG, well played's coming out. From I don't know if I saw any from TteS Sports, to be honest. But anyways, well, that's gonna do it for game number 1 here in this best of 3 between State Green and TteS Sports. State Green will definitely take the first game out. I almost said easily. I don't think it was easy win necessarily, but they didn't play it very well. And So it does go back though, Drelf, to the beginning. Well, specifically the picking stage, and I brought it up, kind of, how much value is there in? Sure, TT Esports went with that Fade and Pebbles final picks. They could have gone Tempest Pebbles though. They could have got Tempest Fade though.
I mean, yeah, the lineup in from SG looks scary on paper, but also remember they went long lane Glacius and Soul Stealer. Like you could easily just transition and crush that. And what are you going to do? Transition them to then you have to transition them to the bottom lane. Then you keep roaming him. Then you move around. And then I think they just played a little bit wrong, to be honest. And they did do well bottom, keeping Wild Soul at bay. But did they really keep Wild Soul at bay? He had still a